Welcome to Think Heart Strategy Marketing Interviews. I'm Jim Steuer, and today we welcome Matthew Forner of the Forner Group. Welcome, Matthew.
Great to be with you.
You know, Matthew, I've known you for 5 to 10 years, and I can honestly say you're one of the few people I've ever met that knows how to make technology for business. How the heck do you do it so that you don't blow the customer away with technology and you make them feel comfortable?
Well, I definitely have a background in technology, so that's a big part of it. I would say that being that I work with technology every single day, it helps me translate it to my clients and to my customers in a much easier and better way overall.
That's great. So what would you say is your biggest asset to a customer?
So I really try to take a generalist view when I walk into the room. Not only am I an optimist, but I try to take a generalist view of strategic communications and technology, because I really think we're living in the era of specialists, but no one really has that generalist view anymore. And that's something that I found that I can bring that's unique.
So do you think that generalist view that you just described creates comfort with the customer right out of the box, or does it make it harder because you're not giving them a specific solution as opposed to something that's more encompassing?
So I think there's a little bit of both to that. So first off, I think from having a generalist view already starts that out in being able to talk about a lot of different subjects, being able to create that comfort and that trust from the beginning. I think where having a generalist view really is better is that you have that wide base to work off of knowing different industries, having a broad experience to pull from that specialists just don't have. With that said, I think there are advantages to having that specialist view. I do have a specialty in certain areas, particularly in broadcasting or in strategic communications and public relations, and is of course technology as well. But I think having a generalist view from the beginning and approaching projects from that view is just so much more powerful in today's market.
So is it hard to build trust with the customer in technology? Because most of the people that I know in business, they don't know as much as you do with technology. So how do you build trust with a customer?
Well, it really first goes back to actually knowing the technology itself. One of the things that I know is technology. I work with technology every day, all different forms of technology, whether we're talking computers, we're talking microphones like this one right here, and we're doing like podcasts, if we're doing video work. I have a background in these areas and I work with this technology daily. So having that already brings in trust and comfort. And then when I work with my clients, I bring to them that knowledge and I equip them so that they feel comfortable as well.
That's great. So, why don't you describe what an ideal client would look like?
So an ideal client for me is someone who's willing to learn, someone who's willing to grow. That's, I think, is essential to every client relationship. Having that ability to be willing to grow, be willing to expand the knowledge base that they have is really important. I think that's something that people are starting to have more than they used to, is that comfort. I'll definitely tell you, some of my clients over the whole COVID pandemic that we're in the middle of have been forced to work permanently from home and get acquainted with new technology that they have not before. So just being able to be comfortable learning and willing to step out of the box and try something new has been something that I think builds that comfort.
So a business executive comes to you with a problem. Do you analyze the problem or analyze the person?
I think there's a mixture of both. I think there's definitely a mixture of both within that. I think you have to analyze the person, who are you working with, and then tailor your solution to match the person themselves. But you also have to tailor the solution to the problem that they're facing. Not every problem gets the same solution. In the same way, though, not every person you're working with is going to get the same solution to that problem, if that makes sense.
So you don't have tailor-made solutions. You have people solutions depending on what the person needs, as opposed to one size fits all.
Yes, absolutely.
And does that make the customer feel more comfortable knowing that Matthew is not coming up and saying, okay, you know what, this is the solution. This is what I've used for everybody else. You kind of say, you know what, this is your personality. This is who you are. I want that personality to reflect what my solution is.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. I think when you can walk into a room and form a relationship with someone, every relationship, every professional relationship you have is going to be different. And when you can tailor your solution to that person and you can work with them on an individual level, especially executives who expect that from the beginning, that's something that builds trust and builds trust in that professional relationship. Where is if you're just walking in the room with a prescribed solution that for every problem, you're not going to have that real attention to detail and that same deep relationship you get from working with someone in such a detailed way.
So does your approach create a level of comfort by itself, or do you think the technology provides that extra layer of comfort?
I think it has to start with the relationship to begin with. I think if you have a relationship that is built on that trust, you've worked with this person before, you've helped solve problems for them, maybe minor ones to begin with before you get to larger problems. I think that's what builds the trust. I think technology in itself is for many executives not something that they trust from the beginning. They're probably not trusting that piece of technology.
I think they're
So
scared to death.
yeah, absolutely. So when you're able to help comfort them by just having that positive perspective, by walking in and saying, hey, let's solve this, let's find a solution together that we can work through. I think the technology, once it works, they see that, hey, that's a great solution. Okay, I'm happy. But to get there, you have to have that personality and that approach to them where you care about them as an individual first.
You brought up an interesting point there, Matthew, which is you believe in collaboration. A lot of people that I know in technology, the technology operates autonomously without the person. It sounds like you integrate the technology in a collaborative way with the person, and I'll bet you that creates a win-win scenario.
Well, you have to rely on technology to solve to really solve the problem at the end of the day. If you need a microphone to make your podcast sound better, if you're going to be doing an interview, the technology ultimately has to work. But the way that you get there is through collaboration and through that relationship between client and between the client and myself. You have to really start with the premise that relationship is the foundation. And from there, you can collaborate and work together to find the right solution.
So, it's interesting listening to you talk. You got a lot of passion for what you do. Do you think that comes across to your customer in the sense that, this guy really cares? It seems like that's what makes the difference with Matthew Forner as opposed to a typical person that's trying to sell something or trying to market something.
Well, I definitely hope so. I have a lot of passion for the products I use, for the technology that I work with. I'm not going to recommend to someone to get something that I truly think is not going to help them and not work for them and with them. So I hope that my passion comes through, because that's where you're going to have that spark in that relationship. And that's where they're also going to form that trust with you to take your advice and to take your advising under their consideration.
So it's interesting you brought up the concept of advice and counsel and helping people. It sounds like, and I can only speak personally when I deal with you, it's almost like there's a level of comfort as if you're a friend as opposed to just somebody that's trying to sell me technology. And I feel more comfortable as a result of that approach. Does that work for everybody?
Well, first off, I'm really glad that you said that, because genuinely, Jim, I value the relationship that we have. And for every client, it's the same way. I value that relationship that I have, that professional relationship. I value that. And I think that's really important. However, there's going to be certain clients, of course, that just solve my problem. And I understand that there's some people that just want to walk in the room and say, give me a solution. And while I can do that, absolutely, that's not always the best way, in my opinion, to do business. Because if you're going to have a company that long-term that's going to be successful long-term, it's about that relationship, not just solving the problem in every situation.
Well, you know what? I hope everybody's enjoyed today's conversation with Matthew Forner of the Forner Group and learned a little bit more of how business and technology lead to solutions. Thank you again for joining us today, Matthew.
Thank you so much, Jim.
I hope everybody's enjoyed this. We look forward to seeing you again. And remember, merging the mind and heart through marketing creates successful business.